This is Wednesbury, a black country town in the West Midlands. At this busy mainstream secondary school, there's a successful programme of inclusion for pupils with special educational needs. Of 1,200 pupils, over 100 are statemented or have additional funded support. And 7 of these are diagnosed as being on the autistic spectrum. Wodensborough is a school where inclusion works.
We believe in everybody having access to the curriculum, whatever the subjects, whatever the activity and whatever their entry level, whether they're working at A star or they're working at P levels. That's the school's philosophy.
The special needs provision employs 42 staff, including special needs teachers, learning support practitioners and learning support assistants.
We were approached by the authority to look at developing a provision for secondary children with autistic spectrum disorders, and that was a major transition process for us and the whole school. Secondary mainstream teachers have to unpick and undo and restart and rethink everything again. Even the simple tools that a classroom teacher uses in a secondary school is going to completely throw an autistic child and create havoc in a classroom.
We'll be seeing how 4 pupils on the autistic spectrum are included in the life of the school. Statistically, ASD affects far more boys than girls. The reasons for this are unclear. Anthony is in Year 7, Luke is Year 8, Scott is Year 9 and Tim is in Year 11. Each boy has distinct needs relating to his individual diagnosis. For Anthony's parents, the thought of his transition to a large mainstream secondary school caused them concern.
I think we've had ideas about what inclusion should be over the last few years, but we've never really seen it in action at his primary school like we would have. But I think since he's moved to secondary, we've definitely seen inclusion in practice and that it can work and be successful. He's not comfortable with crowded classrooms, unpredictable noise, too many demands being made on him at once. Lack of routine, lack of consistency. He needs a very structured setting to do well. So although it's a larger school and much more movement and noise, because the staff have been so consistent with him, that's really been helpful to him.
Here you go, Scott. Shall I help you with another one?
Like Anthony, Scott is part of mainstream classes for most subjects. For an autistic child, mixing with other pupils is a valuable way to overcome isolation.
Let the professional do it. I will not join in.
What you can do, which is good in the green...
I can get on with my work.
Well done.
In the learning support department, Scott
has got no independence whatsoever in school with peers or adults. He has changed a hell of a lot, got a lot more independent. He will work now independently, he'll work with groups, and his stress levels aren't so high. When I see him on the corridor, I will try to remember that it has been sorted. We cannot.
A common autistic trait is misinterpreting social situations.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
Scott is learning how to differentiate between boisterous behaviour and bullying.
We draw the situation out, and then we can say whether they're bullies or not. If it's only happened once, there won't be a bully. So we put it in the finish box, and that's finished with. We don't want to talk about him no more.
Don't you like him?
Because he doesn't do it no more, does he?
No.
That's where the finished box really comes in and is really useful, because you do put it in the finished box, and then if it comes up again, you can say, that's in the finished box. It's not really frustrating on our part, because it's obviously something that's bothering them, and it's something they need to deal with. So you just deal with it until they're happy, then it's finished.
It was
sorted.
I'm making shepherd's pie.
Hayley played a key part in Luke's difficult transition from primary school.
He first stepped through the doors and just screamed and screamed and screamed, and it was a case of 3, 2, 1 up the stairs, and up he came straight into LS2. We've got other autistic children who have been nervous, but they haven't had that reaction.
Secondary schools regularly ensure liaison with the primary pupils they're going to take in. But it's crucial for Wodensborough's support staff to get to know incoming pupils with ASD as early as possible.
Oh, that's very clever. Very clever.
18 months ago, on his first visit to the school, Luke was given a video camera to help him explore his new surroundings. For any pupil with ASD, the unknown can be a threat.
Staircase.
The main challenges are moving from a very familiar, safe, small environment to moving to a very large, unfamiliar environment, lots of new faces, lots of new sounds, lots of new smells, because the sensory needs of children, are sometimes overlooked, and particularly with an ASD child, those sensory needs can become extremely heightened.
That was the design brief, remember
Since then, Luke's progressed well and has benefited from accessing the mainstream curriculum and teachers.
He's come on amazingly because he's so much more independent now. He's much better with people. It was normally head straight down on the desk, which he does now and again. But he's getting used to people a lot more and changing environments much more. He has settled a lot.
With the Learning Support Department as his base, Luke has structure throughout the day.
He needs to know what we expect of him that day. He needs to know if there are any changes.
You know what that is? You know what the symbol is?
He needs a lot of visual strategies used. He has a visual timetable.
So we've got drama,
Life skills. Rape.
He needs to use registration, sort of just dealing with the day-to-day things that other pupils might take in their stride.
and then at the end,
Home time.
Home time, fantastic. We use symbols all the time. We have them all around schools. We've started filtering out into mainstream lessons as well, and we found it has a massive impact on all the pupils, not just the autistic ones. It doesn't hurt the kids that can read, and it really benefits those that can't.
Sunday Hub. Who likes drinks?
Luke's been making progress in subjects that are traditionally non-autism friendly. Mainstream teacher Liz Wood takes Luke for drama.
When he first came to lessons, he was happy to play a game. And even that took a couple of weeks to get him into playing a game. But after that, that was it. He wouldn't do any of the work. He didn't want to engage in any group work or anything like that. And he made the decision. He was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to sit in the corner.
Day to day, he struggles in groups. He struggles to interact. It takes a lot of prompting to get him involved in things that he doesn't really want to do.
What's happened is Kate and her husband, Patricia, have been called for.
After the game, we went into a little bit of talking, which Luke found a little bit hard to cope with, because he switches off, he gets annoyed, he starts to get a little bit agitated. Luke, be calm. Tell me again. So he removed himself from the situation. I tried talking to him, and he didn't want to know, so left him for 5 minutes to sort of calm himself down. Do you remember the story we were doing last week?
No. At first it was quite distracting because it would distract the other pupils, and especially the mainstream pupils who weren't used to working with the pupils from LS1 and 2, and especially Luke. So they would make a big fuss of it, but over time they've gotten used to it, they ignore it, they continue to be focused on me. And because I've got the support and there's Pete and other people, I know that I can leave it and they can deal with that, and I can continue dealing with the rest of the class.
Who's going to be Katrina, who's going to be Patricia? Once we were going to start moving into the practical work, I used one of the other students who he's used to working with. I sort of got them paired together because it was someone he was comfortable speaking to and comfortable working with. Sort of talking him through what he needed to do and making it enjoyable for him, making it so it wasn't a lesson and it wasn't something that he needed to learn, something that he was going to have fun doing. And you can say, no, it's the moon.
No, it's the moon. It's the moon.
The only person that's ever excluded Luke has been Luke. And now he's starting to include himself, and it's just by the by for the rest of the class. They just accept that it's happening.
Fantastic. How good is that? Praise is so important. Once he has started to work, once he has started to get himself back into the lesson, the teacher then has got to come over and sort of praise, get both Luke, teacher and support staff involved, working as a group, and it helps. It does help a lot.
A moon is the sun. Moon, sun. Moon. Okay, you got.
Fantastic. Well done.
want to see is the knowledge that you have built up, because in theory, this should be...
Tim is preparing for his GCSEs. He has a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome and so is at the higher functioning end of the autistic spectrum.
When I first met Tim, when he was in year 6 at primary school, Tim was very, very isolated, agitated in the playground situation. He found it very difficult to interact with other children.
I hope to get into the graphics or media industry, what I'm studying at the moment, yes. If I get past college, yes.
He was one of our first children that came through the door, that, you know, with a clear diagnosis of ASD. Since then, Tim has just surprised us all.
As far as I'm concerned, this is finished.
Do you think you want to put my freebie on there?
That's got to go back on there for when it gets sent away for marketing and such like, but I really wouldn't start messing with this too much.
Tim is studying GCSE graphics, single award. He does have Asperger's. He is also very academic and very knowledgeable within the subject area. He's actually more able than probably 50% of the rest of the group that don't come with his specific needs. But he does have a very different set of needs to Luke, in that he's much more able. So you have to support him, but also stretch him to meet the requirements of the GCSE syllabus.
The difficulties that Tim has to deal with is the fact that as soon as he's got it in his mind that this is important, then it becomes too important for him. And at the moment, in preparation for GCSEs, you know, lots of staff are getting very, very agitated about coursework and getting this done and getting that done. And Tim is now struggling to understand what is important, because we're trying to develop the whole Tim. We're trying to work on his relationships and his social skills. We're trying to make sure that he's academically making progress. And unfortunately, Tim can't see that as a whole picture. He's seeing it as very much compartmentalised.
That's one of the best specs I've read in a long time. Job done on that bit. It sounds unusual, but we actually have to support him in not doing too much as well, because he will. If he didn't do any more work on his folder, he would still get a very good grade. He will work and work and work. His folder is 3 times the thickness of anyone else's.
Perhaps the biggest issue for teachers is how to adapt their methods when each child with ASD can have such different needs and abilities.
I think that the best way to work with staff is the drip feed method, where you work through issues, you explain the problems, you explain possible solutions and ways through it.
Like all pupils, ASD students need structure, order. They like to know where they're going, how they're going to get there, and to remember that.
Just another one of those.
Talk to the support staff, because the support staff can be really useful in resources they can provide. There's a lot of resources that these kids react well to, like symbol supported timetabling, like differentiated worksheets, and it does really help in lessons.
Our role as a department is facilitating change and making sure that the staff feel confident in moving forward with all children with special educational needs.